Welcome back to the Wild West Vault. Before we begin, make sure you subscribe and like this video. It helps more folks discover these stories. And drop a comment telling us where in the world you're watching from. Her family sold her as useless until a lonely mountain man built her a cabin and called her wife. Wind whips against the eaves of a small farmhouse. A storm rumbles in the distance. Horses stamp nervously in the yard. The faint sound of a young woman's sobs blends with angry voices. The night Eliza's life was sold away began with thunder in the hills. She was 19, but she felt far younger as her father's rough hand gripped her arm and dragged her out into the mud. Eliza's father, harsh, bitter. "Out with you, girl. We've no bread left to waste on the likes of you. Can't haul, can't sew, can't even give a man a dowry. You're nothing but a mouth that won't feed itself." Eliza, pleading, trembling. "Please, Papa. I'll work harder. I can spin, I can mend. Eliza mother, cold, resigned. "You were always the weak one, Eliza. We can't afford weakness now. Better you be of use to someone else, if anyone will take you." Her heart pounded. All her life, she had fought to prove herself. Mending clothes with aching fingers, tending her younger siblings with a smile, even when her own belly starved. But tonight, no kindness could soften her parents' eyes. Lightning split the sky, and in its brief light she saw him, the traitor. A squat man with greedy eyes, waiting with his cart at the gate. Traitor, smirking. "She's small, but she'll fetch something, somewhere. How much you want for her?" Eliza father. "Take her. She's useless to us. Just pay me enough for another sack of flour." The clink of coins rang louder in Eliza's ears than the thunder. A handful of silver was all her worth. Her father shoved her toward the cart, and before she could cry out again, rough rope bound her wrists. Eliza, soft, broken whisper. "Am I truly worth no more than bread?" No answer came. Only the creak of wagon wheels as the traitor snapped his reins and the horses lunged forward. Eliza turned her head, straining for one last glimpse of the farmhouse, the only home she had ever known. No candle burned in the windows for her. No brother or sister slipped out to wave goodbye. Only darkness. The road wound upward into the mountains, each jolt of the cart a cruel reminder of her chains. Rain began to fall, cold needles against her skin. She wanted to scream, but her throat felt raw. She wanted to beg, but to whom? The family that sold her? The man who owned her now? Or the God she feared had turned his face away? Traitor, mocking chuckle. "Quiet, girl. You'll learn soon enough. Your tears won't fill your belly. Best save your breath." So she did. She swallowed her sobs and sat silent in the rain. In that silence, a vow stirred inside her. She would not break, not tonight. For though her family had cast her aside as useless somewhere in the storm, she prayed there might still be a place, a purpose, a hand that would not push her away. But she could not know that destiny was already waiting in the shadowed pines ahead. Thus began Eliza's journey, from unwanted daughter to something far more. Chapter 2. A Chance Encounter. Wagon wheels groaning. Rain dripping from pine branches. Horses snorting in the misty mountain pass. The mountain road grew steeper, and the trader's wagon creaked under its own weight. Eliza sat bound on the jolting boards, her wrists raw from the rope, her eyes heavy from tears unshed. The storm had passed, leaving only damp silence and a shroud of fog curling between the trees. And then, snap! The axle gave way. Trader, furious. Blasted wood. Useless wagon. Useless road. He kicks the broken wheel. Horses rear and snort in protest. He rounded on Eliza, his anger spilling where it did not belong. Traitor, snarling. "This is your fault, girl. Bad luck clings to you like fleas. Sit tight. Don't you dare move while I fetch help." With a sharp cuff to her shoulder, he left her in the mist and stomped down the road, curses fading into the trees. Eliza sat trembling, the ropes digging deeper, fear clawing at her throat. She was alone, or so she thought. A branch cracks, the hush of pine needles shifting. Slow, heavy footsteps draw near. From the fog, a figure emerged, broad-shouldered, tall as the pines. An axe rested easily in one hand, a bundle of firewood slung over the other. Eliza whispered, terrified, "Please don't hurt me." The man paused. His voice, when it came, was rough with disuse, yet gentle as the rain. Jonas Hale, gruff, calm. "I've no mind to harm you, girl. Who tied you so?" Eliza, hesitant, trembling. "The traitor. He bought me from my family." The man's brow furrowed. He set down his wood, knelt, and with a single stroke of his hunting knife, cut the ropes from her wrists. Sound, rope falls. Eliza gasped softly, rubbing her sore skin. Jonas quietly. "No one ought to be bound like a beast." She looked up at him then, really looked. A thick beard shadowed his jaw. His eyes, though wary, held a sorrow that matched her own. Before Eliza could speak, the traitor's voice bellowed through the mist. "Traitor," angry, returning. "Hey, get away from her. That's my property." The woodsman rose, standing like a mountain between Eliza and the smaller man. Jonas, firm, edged with steel. "Property? She's no mule for your cart. What did you pay for her?" Traitor, sneering. "None of your business. Her pa sold her fair and square. She's mine." Jonas reached into the leather pouch at his belt. Silver clinked in his palm, more than the traitor had ever dreamed for one girl. Jonas, flat, uncompromising. "Take it, and leave her." Traitor, grabbing coins, muttering. "Fool woodsman fine. She's yours, if you want the trouble." The traitor spat, pocketed the silver, and dragged his limping wagon down the trail. His curses faded once more into the distance. For a moment, only silence remained. Silence and the steady sound of Eliza's breathing. Eliza, soft, astonished. "You bought me back." Jonas, shaking his head. "No, I freed you. The coin was for his greed, not for you. You're no man's property." Her throat tightened. No one had spoken of her like that before. Not her father, not her mother, not anyone. The woodsman extended a calloused hand. Jonas, quiet. "Come, my cabin's not far. You'll find shelter there." Eliza hesitated, heart pounding. To follow him was to trust a stranger. Yet something in his voice, steady, unyielding, called to her aching soul. And so, with trembling fingers, she placed her hand in his. Boots crunching over pine needles. The faint rush of a mountain creek ahead. The fog swallows the empty road behind them. Thus Eliza stepped away from chains and into the unknown, beside the lonely mountain man who would change everything. Chapter 3. The Cabin in the Pines. Crunch of boots on pine needles. The low roar of a creek. A crow caws in the distance. Wind whistles softly through tall trees. The mountain trail wound upward, narrow and rough, but Eliza followed the stranger without faltering. Her wrists stung where rope had cut into her skin, yet her steps were lighter than they had been in years. Beside her walked Jonas Hale, the man who had severed her chains with one clean stroke of his knife. Eliza, tentative, quiet. Why would you help me? You don't even know me." Jonas, gruff, without looking back. "Didn't need to. Wrong's wrong. That man had no right to bind you." He spoke little more, his stride steady and sure. At last, the trees opened, and there it stood, his cabin. Sound, crackle of a creek nearby, a door creaking gently in the breeze. It was no grand home, only a squat log cabin nestled in a cradle of pines. Moss clung to the roof. Smoke curled thin and blue from the chimney. Yet to Eliza, who had slept on cold wagon boards, it looked like a palace. Jonas, gesturing. "Here we are. Not much, but it keeps the rain off." He pushed open the door, and a wave of warmth met her. Firelight flickering against rough-hewn walls, the faint scent of pine smoke and venison stew. Eliza, soft gasp. "It's warm." Jonas, half smiling under his beard. "Supposed to be. Sit. You look half frozen." Sound, chair scraping as she sits. Jonas ladles stew into a wooden bowl. She sat by the fire, stiff at first, then slowly letting the heat seep into her bones. Jonas set a bowl before her, thick with meat and potatoes. Eliza, whispering, almost reverent. "For me?" Jonas, gruff, nodding. "Can't eat it all myself." "Go on." She lifted the spoon with trembling hands, tasting the broth. It was rich, savory, nothing like the stale crust she'd been given at home. Tears welled before she could stop them. Jonas, concerned, awkward. Too hot? Did I? Eliza, shaking her head, voice breaking. No, it's just no one's ever fed me before. Not like this. Not with care. He fell silent, staring into the fire, as though her words had struck something deep inside him. Jonas, low after a pause. I once had someone to feed. A wife. A boy. Fever took them years ago. The grief in his voice was quiet, but heavy, like snow bending down a pine bough. Eliza lowered her gaze, her heart aching. Eliza, gently. I'm sorry. I know what it is to lose. Neither spoke for a time. The fire popped. The wind brushed against the walls. In that silence, a fragile understanding grew. Later, Eliza tried to rise, to wash the dishes, to repay his kindness. Eliza, determined. Please, let me do something. I can't just sit here. Jonas, gruff but not unkind. You're no servant here. Rest. Yet she insisted, gathering bowls, sweeping the floor, humming softly as she worked. Her small hands moved with practiced care, and for the first time in years, the lonely cabin seemed less hollow. Jonas watched her from the corner of his eye. He said nothing, but in his chest, something long asleep stirred. Fire crackles. Outside, the wind rises, but inside the cabin, the air is warm, steady, safe. That night, as Eliza lay beneath a quilt on a pallet by the hearth, she whispered a prayer of thanks. For the first time since her family cast her away, she dared to believe she had found shelter, if not yet a home. And Jonas, in the shadows of his room, found himself listening to the quiet sound of her breathing and realizing that silence no longer pressed quite so heavy on his heart. Chapter 4. Building a Life. Morning birdsong. An axe strikes wood. The steady rush of a nearby creek. The days that followed were stitched together with small labors. For Jonas, work was habit. For Eliza, each task was a step into a life she had never known, a life where her hands were not beaten for failing, but guided for learning. Jonas calling out, grip it higher on the handle. Let the axe do the work, don't fight it. He showed her how to split kindling, how to stack it so rain would not spoil the pile. She was clumsy at first, her swing weak, but his patience never broke. Eliza, laughing nervously. It leans to the side like me. Jonas, with a faint chuckle. Straighten your stance, and it'll follow. There, better. When the work left her hands blistered, she still smiled, for each lesson was proof she was not useless as her family had named her. Sound, wooden bucket dipping into water, creek rushing. At the creek, he taught her to fill buckets without spilling, to set snares for rabbits along the thickets. And in turn, Eliza showed him things he had long forgotten. Sound, cloth rustling, quiet stitching. She mended his shirts with neat stitches, lined the shelves with dried herbs and berries, and sang softly as she worked. Songs her mother had once hummed before bitterness hardened her voice. Eliza, singing faintly, then stopping shy. Oh, I didn't mean for you to hear. Jonas, quiet, almost tender. Don't stop. It makes the place feel lived in. So she sang, and the silence that once haunted the cabin softened into something almost like peace. Sound, fire crackling, night insects chirping. One evening, as they sat by the fire, the air between them heavy with unspoken thoughts, Jonas cleared his throat. Jonas, hesitant, rough-edged. A man can patch walls, raise a roof, keep out the rain. But a cabin, he pauses, searching for words, a cabin feels empty without a wife. Eliza froze, the spoon in her hand trembling. The word wife had always been something distant, belonging to other women, never to her. Eliza, voice barely a whisper. A wife. Jonas, quick, fumbling. I ain't asking for love. Not if you don't want it. But a man and woman, they can make a life. Share burdens. Watch each other's backs. Call it marriage, call it partnership. It's steadier than loneliness. Her breath caught. No one had ever spoken of her, as though she could be chosen. Wanted. Needed. Eliza, soft, unsure, yet hopeful. And you'd have me as that. Jonas, steady, meeting her eyes. I'd have you as you are. Not for what you can lift, not for what you can give me. Just as you. Tears pricked her eyes. She pressed a hand to her chest, where her heart thundered as though it might burst free. Eliza, whispering, "Then yes, I will stay. I will be your wife." And in the glow of the fire, with only the pines as witness, the vow was spoken, not in church bells or written contracts, but in two wounded souls choosing to build something new. Wind sighs gently through the trees. The fire crackles low, steady warm. That night, as sleep claimed them in their separate rooms, each carried a quiet truth. The cabin no longer stood as one man's refuge. It had begun to feel like something greater. A home. Chapter 5, called Wife. Hooves clopping on a dirt road. A wagon wheel creaks. The murmur of voices, chickens clucking, and a blacksmith's hammer in the distance. A week after their vows, Jonas hitched his mule to the wagon and set out for the trading post. Supplies were running low, but this time he did not go alone. Eliza rode at his side, her hands twisting nervously in her lap as the road wound down the mountain into the valley. Eliza, soft, anxious. Jonas, what if they ask who I am? What if they know I was sold? Jonas, firm, gentle. Then they'll know lies. You're no man's cast-off. You're my wife now. That's all that matters. His words steadied her, though her heart still fluttered like a sparrow in a snare. The trading post came into view, a scatter of wooden buildings, a hitching rail crowded with horses, the tang of smoke and leather in the air. Men bartered, women carried baskets, children darted underfoot. Eliza drew her shawl tighter, wishing she could vanish into the wagon boards. Sound, boots crunching gravel, doors creaking, voices greeting. Inside the general store, Jonas loaded the counter with flour, salt, nails, and lamp oil. The shopkeeper, a stout man with shrewd eyes, peered at Eliza. Shopkeeper, curious, smiling politely. "Well now, Jonas Hale, looks like you've brought company. And who might this be?" Eliza froze. Her mouth went dry. But before fear could choke her, Jonas laid a steady hand on her shoulder. Jonas, calm, with quiet pride. "This is my wife." The words hung in the air, simple yet profound. Wife. Not burden. Not useless. Not sold. Wife. The shopkeeper's brows rose, then softened into a nod. Shopkeeper, grinning. "Well then, Mrs. Hale, welcome. Any wife of Jonas is welcome here." Eliza's chest tightened. For the first time, her name had been spoken with respect, without scorn. She managed a small, trembling smile. As they left with their bundles, a neighbor tipped his hat, another offered a nod. The word had spread fast. Jonas Hale had a wife. And none questioned it. Sound, wagon wheels rolling again, quieter now, evening crickets beginning. Eliza, soft, amazed. "No one has ever called me that before." Jonas, quiet, steady. "Then let it be the first of many. You've a right to the name, and I'll not let it be taken from you." Her hand brushed his on the wagon bench, and for a moment, neither pulled away. Their eyes met, briefly, but with a weight of meaning words could not carry. That night, back at the cabin, as firelight danced across the walls, Eliza whispered the word again, testing its shape, its truth. Eliza, soft almost to herself. Wife. The cabin seemed warmer for it. And for the first time in her life, Eliza dared to believe she was not only wanted, but claimed, cherished, named. Chapter 6, Shadows of the Past. Wind sighing through the pines. An axe striking wood. A dog barking faintly in the distance. Then, hoofbeats, fast and uneven, breaking the mountain stillness. The days of peace did not last. Word travels swift in the mountains, carried on tongues quicker than the wind. And one autumn afternoon, the sound of hoofbeats brought shadows from Eliza's past to Jonas's door. Sound, horses snorting, boots crunching gravel. Voices rough, angry. Brother one jeering. Well, look what we found. Our little sister, hiding away in the woods." Eliza, gasp, fearful. "No." Two men dismounted, broad-shouldered, faces hard as stone. Her brothers. The very men who had watched in silence as their father sold her like cattle. Brother two mocking. You thought you could just run? That traitor said some fool hermit bought you. Didn't reckon it was old Jonas Hale. Jonas stepped from the woodpile, axe still in hand. His eyes narrowed, his stance solid as the mountain itself. Jonas calm, but iron beneath. She didn't run. She's here by choice. And she won't be leaving with you. Brother one, snarling. She's blood. Ours. She belongs to the family. Eliza, voice shaking, then growing firm. You had no family for me when you sold me. You gave me away like coin for bread. I belong to no one but myself. The words trembled, yet they held more courage than she had ever dared before. Jonas's hand shifted on the axe handle, steady, protective. Jonas, low, dangerous. You heard her. She's my wife now. You'll not touch her. The brothers laughed, but there was unease in their eyes. Jonas was no frail farmer. He was broad, weathered, a man who knew the weight of silence and steel. Brother two, spitting on the ground. This ain't over, woodsman. You can't keep her hid forever. We'll be back. Sound. Horses snorting, boots mounting stirrups. Hooves retreating down the rocky trail. The forest grew quiet again, but the air still carried the echo of threats. Eliza's knees buckled, and she clutched the cabin rail, trembling. Jonas set the axe aside and came to her, his voice softer than she had ever heard it. Jonas, gentle, steady. They won't take you. Not while I stand. Eliza, choked with tears. I thought I'd escape them forever. But they'll keep coming. They'll never see me as anything but what they sold. Jonas, firm, grounding. Then let them see. Let them rage. The mountains don't give up their own. And neither do I. She looked up at him then. This man who had taken her from chains, fed her, given her a name no one could strip away. And for the first time, she believed his words could be true. Wind rising through the trees, the creak of cabin timbers, the fire crackling within. The past had returned, claws bared. But in Jonas's shadow, Eliza no longer felt helpless. She was no longer the girl who had been cast aside. She was wife. She was chosen. And she was not alone. Chapter 7. A cabin called home. The gentle hush of snowfall, a fire crackling warmly, and the steady rhythm of a hammer striking wood. Winter settled on the mountain like a soft white quilt. Where once there had been only a lonely cabin, now laughter and footsteps filled its walls. Jonas Hale, who had lived half his life in silence, now built not just shelter, but a home. And at the center of it all stood Eliza, no longer the broken girl sold as useless, but a woman with purpose, fire, and hope. Sound, hammering stops. Jonas's footsteps. The door creaks open, letting in cold wind and snowflakes. Jonas calling warmly. Eliza, come look. It's done. She stepped outside, her shawl tight around her shoulders. And there, before her eyes, stood the new addition Jonas had built. A sturdy porch and a carved sign above the door. Eliza, soft gasp. Jonas, you carved this? She traced her fingers over the letters burned into the wood. The word was simple. Home. Eliza, voice breaking with joy. No one's ever built me anything before. Jonas, steady, full of quiet truth. Then let this be the first, and never the last. This mountain, this cabin, it's yours as much as mine. You're not just my wife, Eliza. You're my partner. Her tears fell warm against the winter air, but these were not the tears of sorrow that had stained her past. They were tears of belonging. She leaned against Jonas, and together they watched the snow fall in silence. The world might rage beyond the mountain, but here, in the heart of the wilderness, two discarded souls had found something unbreakable. Sound, fire crackling inside as the wind fades. Laughter, a kettle whistling faintly. Eliza had been sold as useless, but love and kindness had proved her priceless. And Jonas, the lonely mountain man, had discovered that even the strongest walls mean nothing without someone to share them with. Their story was not of chains, nor of bargains, but of freedom found in the simple word, home. Moral lesson. We live in a world quick to cast aside what it does not understand, to call people useless, unwanted, or broken. But the truth is this. Every soul holds worth beyond measure. Sometimes all it takes is a hand that sees not weakness, but possibility, not shame, but dignity. Love is not built on wealth or power. It is built on kindness, sacrifice, and the courage to stand by another when the world turns away. And so, remember this. The one the world throws away may be the very treasure that builds your home.